NBA Finals, Game 1. I'm excited actually to see how this one plays out because it feels very lopsided, and everybody, every series that Miami's played has felt lopsided, and all they do is win. So it's gonna be an interesting series. I personally think this is the kind of game where Denver should. Logically, I would think Denver wins this game pretty handily. The thing that worries me is that I've just been wrong about Miami so many times, and I just don't think that all their tricks and all their stuff are going to work with Jokic. Like, he's the perfect zone buster. They're going to try to play zone at times. It's just going to be a tricky series for Miami in general. It does feel lopsided, but like I said, Miami is tough and a lot. Maybe a little bit better than maybe like, I don't know. They're going to be. They're really. They seem very overmatched when you look at the individual players, but we've just been seeing this over and over again. However, I think this is a different problem than the Celtics because I think that Denver is the best team in the NBA by a pretty good margin. I think that they've also been, as people have said, a lot of people are saying this is the best team in 5 years since the Warriors basically, and Durant parted ways. So my take is I like Denver in 5, but I'm very open to being wrong, and I hope I am in some sense. I hope it goes 7, and I hope it's a fun series. But I like Denver in 5, and I like Denver tonight. That's where
I like Miami in Game 2. If Denver wins this one, like I've spoken about before,
I feel you on that one.
Yeah, if Denver wins this game by 20, I'll take. I like Miami plus the spread in Game 2. That's my only opinion, really. I think the Denver side in this game is like just a little too sharp. You know what I mean? Like I've heard like everybody that Miami's a tough spot for them. Denver's rested. Miami's coming off of this, so a little too sharp for my blood to just go with everybody and take Denver here. So I'm going to probably stay off of this game as far as betting goes. I'll just kind of wait and see. I do think that and again, I hate to put it this way, I do think that the total looks a little low, which means it's probably supposed to bet the under. But that's just instinct. So let's talk about this for a second. So let's talk about Showdown NBA. Let's talk about this thing because it's what are they? How much in the pool? 2 million or something like that. So there's going to be just a whole bunch of entries. Okay. Now, how do we approach this? Now you're playing a bunch. I'm playing a bunch. You know what I mean? It's you got to do it. You just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at basketball is kind of different the way that I look at football showdown, right? So football showdown, I mean, I always force myself to leave money on the table in the lotteries. Okay, just forced to do it. Okay, but the NBA, the projections are usually a little more solid. So to intentionally leave money on the table, sometimes asks for it, but yet on the other hand, you do want to get somewhat unique. Now, one thing that you mentioned is that the last time they ran this, you said the winners were solo or at least close or something like that?
About this? People have won it solo. I didn't say that. I don't remember saying anything about in general, though.
No, not in general, but you said that people have won this type of thing with solo. It's not always 100.
No. There's ways you can do it, and usually it does involve something like leaving money on the table or speculating on some guys who aren't going to project much tonight. There's a bunch of them that sort of fit that mold. And go ahead, Sheets.
Yeah, no, let me just finish the intro. And we kind of talked about this yesterday. Is that one thing that's kind of neat? And this is the type of contest where knowing something about basketball is really going to help because, as we talked about, when you get a new series, right, and a new matchup, coaches will huddle, they'll do whatever, and they will come up or attempt to come up with something, okay? Right. And if you can get ahead of what that something is, right, you're going to get a big ownership break. You're going to get whatever. So I'm kind of hoping, Bobby, that you have some takes on what, listen, it's a tough spot for Miami, right? So what is Miami going to do? And if we can figure out what that is, that's the big deal. What is Denver afraid of? And what do you think Denver is going to do that's kind of different? I'm just kind of throwing it out there. What if this is the series where they did their analytics and it's Christian Braun season or something like that? I'm not saying that's what it is, but
sure.
Something like that and get ahead of it before like everybody catches up to it, you could nail it like right off the bat in like this game one showdown thing. So let's talk about. I mean, let's talk about it. What do you think of the series? What do you think they're going to do? What do you think? What kind of take can you give me here?
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust certain things. The biggest thing I'm trying to figure out is, so if Miami just puts Bam on Jokic and goes nice one-on-one, which I think is what they'll do when they're not in the zone. Of course, you run the risk of Bam foul trouble. There will be some minutes Bam doesn't play anyway because they just played a million of them so far in the playoffs already. So I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen with those. I think Kevin Love will play some minutes early in this series. I don't know how it's going to go, and that'll probably dictate where he goes later in the series. But as of right now, I think Kevin Love and Hayward Highsmith and Cody Zeller are all the sort of that group of guys, not just backing up Bam, but potentially putting another body on, maybe even an undersized body at Highsmith and having Bam roam a little bit, even though it's not his ideal defensive position. It's not like it's AD who you'd want to have to do that with. I do think that you're going to see Bam roaming on defense somewhat, and they're going to at some points have to put somebody else on him, which means, I mean, Kevin Love, that sounds like really ugly, but at least it's a big body, and then you have Bam sort of as the help man all the time. The problem is then you get into the Miami shooting, and they're going to have 4 shooters on the court with Bam most of the time. So I'm trying to figure out like who these other guys could be for Miami, and then Denver, it's pretty straightforward what their rotation is in general. I do think game one, you're going to see maybe some Christian Braun minutes. I also, in a blowout, you definitely could see Christian Braun and Bruce Brown, both Bruce Brown especially, could be the guy who helps continue to pull the lead away and then stays on the court longer than maybe you think he's going to. So trying to play the game theory, figure out a game path that makes sense to me. And so I'll have some with the Denver blowout, some with the Miami close. And that's going to dictate what I do a lot. But I'm trying to find these cheap guys, and I'm probably going to be cycling in a lot of Highsmith, a lot of Zeller, and a lot of Kevin Love.
So just for fun, let me share my screen, and we'll I inputted like some of this projections into SaberSim. But one thing I do have is I kind of have a minimum of what projection I'll accept. So I want to make sure I have everybody. So if there's like, do you think there's any chance? See, all these guys are zeros. I just want to make sure I'm not leaving a zero unspoken for. Like, do you think? Now I know anything's possible, but you think like Nikola Jovic is like in play at all? Like to play a couple of minutes or not really?
And it's possible.
Like, who do you think is more likely to play, like Jovic or Zeller?
Zeller.
Okay, no. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm fixing.
I don't think Jovic played like a total of 8 minutes in the playoffs so far, I believe, and they were all garbage time.
What about Omar Yurtseven?
I don't have any reason to think with what they've been doing that he'll play either, except for unless there's just a crazy blowout.
Okay. All right. So that was the only adjustment I had. And so I just want to build lines. I just want to see what we would come up with. Now let's not leave money. Let's not intentionally leave money on the table first. Okay. And this is the way I use Saber. So let's just let it do its thing. I put our projections in, and it'll do its thing. And I think what you're going to find, Bobby, is something that you would be surprised with. I bet you get like a whole bunch of captains.
A whole bunch
of captains.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of it's uncomfortable. But I think that's usually what you end up getting when you do the SaberSim showdown builds. Let's see. All right. So yeah, so you got not that many. You're getting 8 captains, and 75% of them are being Jokic, and then 13% Bam. And then like very, very low owned captains or low exposure captains, the others, like very low exposure to Murray and Butler. Get a couple of Gordon, Porter, Lowry, Strus. Let's look at some of the utilities. Let's see if there's anybody that's so you're getting Aaron Gordon a decent amount. The Jeff Green at 2,200. Okay, so that's probably the semi chalky cheapo, right? Mm-hmm. That I think people will end up playing. So that makes sense. Kevin Love is really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
He's 2,600.
Yeah, and he hasn't played. He hasn't been a part of the rotation, but I think in this series he will. He hasn't.
Okay, well, he wouldn't start, obviously, right?
It's possible that he could.
Yeah, but then that's no good, because then everybody knows he's part of the rotation.
Right.
What do you think of the development and resurgence, not resurgence, the development and stardom of Caleb Martin?
He shot 60% from the floor and 49% from three in the playoffs. No, in the last series, the last series I think it was. I don't know if that's going to be at all replicable, but I do think that you give guys some freedom and they are completely capable of, they're NBA guys. They can do this. We saw Gabe Vincent at times do the same thing. I am going to be lower on Caleb Martin probably. Well, it's kind of tricky because the price is pretty fair, but my first thought is to try to be a little bit lower on Caleb Martin. It's just my initial instinct. What I would love is if they did start Love and bring him off the bench, then I like him even better. I'm looking at it right now. He's not getting a ton of ownership. Maybe I need to rethink my Caleb Martin stance because I mean at 25% ownership, that just seems a little too low to me on this slate. Where you why does Michael Porter have to outscore him and be twice as owned as he is?
Right.
Why does Aaron Gordon have to outscore him at 600 cheaper? It just feels like I actually thought he was going to be a little chalkier, so I might have to revisit my stance on. I think the idea would be one of Martin or Vincent in a good portion of your lineups, because Miami is going to need somebody to create some shots, other than just Jimmy Butler. Especially the first game, I think they're going to try out some things. I do think that those two guys, Vincent, one of Vincent or Martin would be the way that I would lean in treating those guys. And Denver's just got a few more guys. I think that Denver will play Christian Braun tonight. I think there's an outside chance that Reggie Jackson plays some tonight, but I don't think he'll play any minutes enough to where it'll matter. I just think that you might see him on the court for a couple minutes. I don't think in game one you're going to see the tight 7-man rotation from both sides. I just don't. Maybe in the second half if the game's close. I just think you're going to see more like 9 guys touch the court at least at some point, which is different than what these teams did at the end.
So I think of guys like Jeff Green, Tavius Caldwell-Pope, and Kyle Lowry as kind of like veterans. You think those guys get more run than normal because of like the NBA Finals thing, or do you think they get less run? Or
I don't know how it's going. Kyle Lowry wasn't closing games, but he closed the last one. He's had his minutes have been a little bit sporadic in the playoffs. They've done a lot of mixing and moving. I would say at his current price at where he's at, I don't know that I want to necessarily. Well, he's 52. That seems reasonable. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could include him in the Martin, Vincent, Lowry, one of those guys category. Not that you can't play them together, but just that's sort of the way I'm treating them. Trying to get one of those, trying to get one of the Love, Zeller, Highsmith as a long shot play. And then we can start talking about the studs in a minute.
I think that this is kind of the idea is between Highsmith, Zeller. I'm gonna just throw in Jovic and Yurtseven just for the hell of it. I think that schematically that's important, right? That Miami's going to need to throw some bigs into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Highsmith seems to be the most logical between him and Zeller because those at least we've seen them on the court, right?
Yeah, and Highsmith I think actually is a pretty good candidate to I think his projection is it's hard to say too low.
I mean, it is. I mean, it's if he gets 10 minutes or something like that,
he should get 10 minutes.
Then that's probably all you need, isn't it? Or no?
Yeah. It probably is. I mean, he can put up 0 in 10 minutes too. But there is also a path where maybe a blowout, maybe he helps bring them back. Maybe they find a defensive matchup they like with him out there, and maybe fronting Jokic and you have Bam as the roaming defender. Something like that I could see happening. And he is a guy who's willing to take some shots. And if he hits a few, he can just 10x, 15x the salary, obviously. He was in my first build, And I think he's too cheap. I just think he's way too cheap. I do think he's going to get some run. And I don't see he and Jeff Green. We know Jeff Green is guaranteed to play more because that's just a part of their regular rotation. But I think that there's like an upside of like 30 minutes in a certain type of game for Highsmith, or 24 minutes or 26, whereas Jeff Green is almost never playing more than 18 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though he's got a lower average, he's going to be out there occasionally for more of that run. And while Jeff Green is projecting really well, you have a projection of 3 fantasy points for Highsmith. I think I would gamble and just take a shot with that. I also don't mind the idea of what you mentioned earlier with the Yurt 7. I think they might actually. That's another thing they could do, is try to bring another foreign big to try and get a body on Jokic, at least to buy some time. Maybe Bam gets in foul trouble. There's a lot of ways that it could play. Maybe a blowout, but Yurt 7 would be an interesting one to me. I do think that they're going to start using Duncan Robinson a little bit more. He's been there for the important parts of the games, and he's been fairly effective for Miami. It's if you watch the games, it would feel like he played a lot more minutes than he did, but incredible production per minute. I mean, he was phenomenal in that series. I mean, look at these games in 20 minutes, 21 fantasy points, in 22 minutes, 32 fantasy points, 10 minutes, only 3, 27 minutes, 37. 20 minutes, 18, 20 minutes, 18. Very, very good point per minute in that last series. I'm not saying it'll be as good point per minute, but I do think that there is upside. And the problem is just there's all these question marks, and where does he rank on the Miami guys? Because his price is a little too close to Max Struss, who already starts. I think Robinson gets forgotten about a little bit. So Robinson or Struss, they try not to keep both those guys out there because they get hunted too much. But they won't get hunted the same way because they don't have all the wing players that the Celtics have in Denver creating shots. So I think that Robinson and I have Robinson and Struss split up, but I have no problem playing them together either.
Yeah, so that's where I was going to get to. I was going to try to go, I guess, sort of tier by tier, kind of growing up. So we did kind of those cheapos. Yeah, let's talk about these guys that actually play, that are in the. So you talk about Strus, Duncan Robinson. Who else? Who else is worth playing? Strus, Duncan Robinson, Aaron Gordon. These are like sub studs. You know what I mean? Like these are like secondary guys. What do you think of guys like, I don't know, like Michael Porter Jr.? I'm trying to think of what to do with this kind of these mid range type plays. So you mentioned Struss.
It feels like a good game for so Jokic is going to be 1,000,000% owned as a captain for
yeah.
But if you wanted to get off of that and you wanted to get off of the Jimmy, who's also going to be Jimmy and Bam will also be pretty popular. I think Bam is going to be really popular actually. I think that Michael Porter Jr. is a very viable candidate to maybe he gets a hot shooting night and then he's playing with the bench unit.
Yeah.
And they pull away. That's just trying to think of a logical, way that it could play out.
Now, are you going to do anything with respect to, forcing a certain amount of Denver's in versus Miami's, or are you just going to let it just kind of happen?
No, I'm not. I'm going to try to see it, let it happen. It just depends on which angle I'm taking. In a Denver blowout, I actually might play more Miami guys. It really depends on which type of build. I'm going to do some hand builds and I'm going to play around with this, but I'm not. I'm sort of letting it happen right now.
Okay. So we did talk about some of the Miami cheapos. Are any Denver? We did talk about Braun. Anybody else that I just don't leave no stone unturned in this one. So, any other nugget that I'm missing here? Not really, right? Question of just getting the right combination.
Yeah, it's Reggie Jackson might play. That's like I mentioned. I don't think they'll play DeAndre Jordan. Very small chance Canchar could play, I guess, if in a blowout or something.
What about some rules? Like, is there any guys that you wouldn't that you would not play together?
No. Okay. I would never do that on this kind of a.
Well, I don't know if I would play, Yurtsev and Jovic together.
Well, I guess that's one thing, but
you never know.
I would.
Yeah, I'm gonna fire this. I'm gonna play at least 50 in this thing.
Nice.
I'm gonna take a shot at this one. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
and for what it's worth, I have the captains as such so far. In terms of, so like Jokic, let's say he's 30% out. He might be higher, but it's kind of hard to get everybody in if you do play him there. I don't understand how Jimmy Butler is getting. I guess it's just the price. He's just getting so low owned a captain. So I actually think he's an interesting option. Probably a better option for game 2, as you know, playing the hey, I like Miami in game 2 if they lose today, kind of a thing. Bam is cheap. I'm trying to decide. So I guess with Jokic,
Bam has been cheap all season, and he's like never done anything.
No, exactly. But he's a great real life basketball player.
Yeah.
He just doesn't put up these video game numbers that some of these other guys can put up. But he is significantly cheaper, and you know, obviously, a lot of the series is going to come down to that battle between he and Jokic. So I think that he's kind of interesting, but he's going to be probably popular. I do think because of the lack of ownership, maybe taking a shot on Caleb Martin. I think Gabe Vincent is kind of interesting as a potential captain to get people in. He's cheap enough.
Okay.
He at times it's just a matter of who's got it going, he or Lowry. You would think after Lowry playing as much as he did the other night, maybe it goes back to Vincent, and he's got upside. I mean, he shot the lights out in that one game against Boston where he had 42 fantasy points, 29 real life points. But they're going to need that other creator. So I'm kind of looking at, as far as the other guys I'm looking at, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent are too high on my list. Michael Porter Jr. and probably Aaron Gordon are the other ones I'd be willing to go over on with maybe a get creative and take a shot with Struss or Brown, Bruce Brown. But those are going to be, you know, maybe just like 5% or something like that. But I do think it is the kind of series where you should be getting everything out there. It's the first game too, and there's going to be a feeling out process, and there's going to be other guys, and then, you know, maybe it's the wrong game for Highsmith or Yurt 7 or all these guys. Maybe they play in game 2, but I do think you're going to see more guys in these first couple games. Also factor in the altitude, the fact that Miami's played so many more games. Denver's well rested. Could be an opposite thing. It could be a rust. You could end up seeing a very rusty Denver team, and then maybe this is the one Miami can steal. But I'm still going through my process. I will post my early builds on the site a little bit later, but I'm still not entirely sure what I really want to do right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically, it's going to be kind of tricky. And I'm just going to try to play the angle, play the game stays close. That's when I can play Jimmy and the captain. Because he's going to be low owned as a captain. I'm just telling you right now, like his price with Jokic, like try to get he and Jokic into a build where one of them is captain. It's not the most fun thing in the world.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe I will just leave money on the table. But I kind of like this idea of playing those blowout centers for Miami.
I agree with that. I like that.
Jovic's and Yurtsevens.
I don't really see the Jovic thing because he's not really a center. He's too small to play on the court with Jovic.
Oh, okay.
He's tiny. He's tiny compared to that.
Has he played a minute in the playoffs?
Yeah, he played 1, 2, and then 3.
Okay. Recently or no?
Yeah, in the last series.
In the last series?
But those were all blowouts. And they were blowouts where he should have gotten more than 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know what I mean? Like if he gets his perfect win condition, so to speak, and he still only gets 1 or 2 minutes, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
But you know what I think? This guy might end up being popular at the end of the day, but I do like the Highsmith.
Yeah.
That seems to be the most conservative of the long shots. We've seen Zeller play.
Yeah, Zeller is the natural guy you would expect to see. And that's why you're talking about Yurt 7 and Jovic. They're really like the 10th and 11th man on the roster.
Do these guys play together at all, Zeller and Highsmith, or no?
Yeah, Highsmith is like just a forward.
Okay.
But I would try, like most of the time I'll be separating them, but it's absolutely not firm rule. I don't want to try to play them together, but if it happens, I'll let it stick on a couple lineups probably.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna run.
Okay.
I make a phone call, and then I got to do the MMA video, which I'm looking forward to.
Nice. Oh, right. It's the big week, right? Oh, no, it's not the big week. No,
No, that's till June 24th, and I still don't know if I'm going or not, and it's everything's yeah. Sheets World is ripe with variants. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Let's see what happens.
All right, buddy. Well,
I'll tell you who's not ripe with variants. Freaking Jesus Luzardo has 5 strikeouts and 7 outs.
Wow.
And yeah, so and I'll tell you who is ripe with variants. That Freddie Peralta. Only 3 runs he gave up in the first inning. It's about standard. All right.
Maybe you're doing well then.
Yeah, that's it. Beautiful. I will. I don't know about 6. Oh wait, there is no 6, right? Is there baseball?
Yeah,
tonight?
no. I'll touch base later at some point, maybe before the game. I haven't planned anything further much.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Take it easy. Good luck, everybody.
I'll catch up to you later.
All right, sounds good, bud.